hope you had a great weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, घर पे. Most probably this is the last time that you spent your Saturday or Sunday at home. Hopefully by the end of next weekend, everything will be, the order will get restored. Okay, the order will get restored. So, one thing you must have realized, all of you. Acha, by the way, is my voice audible enough to all of you? You may switch on your camera and let me know by giving me thumbs up like this. Yes, okay. Okay. Now you may switch off your camera. Okay. So, one thing you must have realized is that having gone through notes, and I'm assuming that you have read the notes that were given to you, the first handout. Okay. So, one thing you must have realized is that you cannot understand the notes unless you have gone through classes. You cannot understand the notes unless you have gone through classes. This is something you must have realized. And more so when you know that the notes are very much in sync with what is going on in the classes in the same chronological fashion. Like for example, when you watch a movie, okay, what happens is when you watch a movie and then you read review of that movie written by someone, it becomes very easier to you to understand what is actually being written in that review. You can easily correlate with that text, okay, whatever has been written in that review on that movie, okay. But suppose you read the review first before watching the movie, what will happen? It will take you time to understand what is exactly being written by that reviewer. You will take time, okay, and it's a natural process of learning. So first, that is why I always suggest, first you should visualize the things. You should have visuals in your head, okay, and you had those visuals in your head before you started reading the notes. And where did you get those visuals from? From the classes that we have covered. And this is why I do not give handouts before the classes. I always give handouts after the class, because then it will make sense. Before, see, just to give you one example, suppose if I give you notes before the classes, you know what will happen? Chaos, reign of terror, because people will start reading those notes on the by themselves, and they may confront different sort of issues. They may confront many kind of words that they may not have heard before, and they'll text me, then they will call me, sir, iska meaning. Arey, but I never asked you to read those things. That is why once we are done with classes, then only note should be given. This is the proper order, okay. Now, second thing that you must have realized is that in the classes, there are some things which I told you or taught you, and those must have not been there in the notes. Very few things, okay. It's very natural to speak something extra, okay, while speaking, because it's a natural process. When you speak, you do not think whether what I'm going to speak is there in the notes or not, okay. It's a natural process. Similarly, when you read the notes, you will also find some things which I did not teach in the class, right? So that way, both notes and classes are equally important, okay. So there cannot be any question like, sir, which is more important, notes or class? Both are equally important. You cannot comprehend the notes unless you have gone through classes, okay. Cool. Now, having assumed that you have read those notes and you have gone through classes, even if you have not read those notes, now is the time to test you on one thing. Okay. Now is the time to test you on one thing. I hope, as I told you, that once you are done with reading those notes, what you have to do is to identify the questions. I told you that you have to identify the questions which were asked by UPSC from those sections. Okay. I don't know how many tried to identify. Some of you did. Okay. They called me also. They texted me also. Okay. So that was a great response from your side. But now I would like to test you on something. Okay. To know the answer to one question or to write the answer on the same question, these are two different things. Okay. To know the answer of a question or to write the answer to that question, these are two different things. You can know something within minutes, within seconds, but to write the same, you may take even hours. Okay. And this is the temporal factor, the time specific factor, which makes these two processes different. Okay. And what is the most essential part of learning? Unless you are doing that, that means you are not learning. That most important part of learning is mistakes. We should not avoid mistakes. Because unless we commit mistakes, we would never get to know where are we going wrong. And unless we get to know where are we going wrong, we would never get to rectify those things. Okay. And we would never be able to compete with those people who have already rectified their wrongs and have become right in their own sense. Okay. So never run away from the mistakes. Commit mistakes as much as possible and get those mistakes checked by someone. Okay. He should tell you the mistakes. You would highlight that these are the areas that I should not be, that I'm not very comfortable with. These are the mistakes that I've been making. And these are few things that I can easily avoid. Okay. To get maximum in minimum time. Okay. Now is the time for all you guys to commit your first official mistake. And that official mistake, I'm not undermining you. I'm not saying that you will commit mistake, but I really want to see how do you approach this question now. Since I believe that you have read the notes and have gone through classes, now I'm going to give you all one question. Now the first task is all of you take out one A4 sheet paper, blank A4 sheet paper. Take out one blank A4 sheet paper. Only one page. Both side blank. Okay. And now be ready to write a question. Okay. And you will be given a target. You would have to write the question in that time only. Remember, in UPSC, you are given 3 hours. 3 hours to write 19 questions. In optional, I'm talking about. Only optional, I'm talking about. In optional, what happens is UPSC Civil Service Mains Examination, Sociology. The time that is given is 3 hours. Total questions that are given are 28, out of which you had to attempt 19. Total 28 questions, 19 have to be attempted. And when you have to attempt 19 questions in 3 hours, and those 19 questions are not only 10 mark or 20 mark. They are both mix. They are mix of both 20 and 10. Okay. Out of these 19, 13 are 10 mark questions and 6 are 20 mark questions. Now, 10 mark questions are 13, 20 mark question are 6. And you have to attempt these in 3 hours. That means for a 10 mark question, how many time do you have? How much time do you have for a 10 mark question? 8 minutes. And for a 20 mark question, you have 11 minutes or 12 minutes. Okay. You should always consider it as 11, not 12. Okay. So let us begin with our first question and let's see what you exactly, and do not refer any source. Close all the sources, close all the books that you have before you, Ritzer, Harlumber, Signu, NCRT, these level of IS sociology notes, close everything. Okay. And I'll keep doing these things. I'll keep, I'll make you write few tests without notifying you. Okay, without notifying you. This is the first question, write down quickly. And don't worry about mistakes that you may commit. If you do not commit mistake, then you have to worry. Trust me. How did the intellectual forces lead to the emergence of sociology? How did intellectual forces? I'm not going to help you on this question. Okay. Once you are done with writing the answer, then I will definitely, but not right now. Okay. Now, I suppose all of you have written the question. How did the intellectual forces lead to the emergence of sociology? Discuss. Okay. Now, time begins. All of you may kindly stop writing. Time is over. Okay. पेपर छूट गया. छूट गया पेपर. So basically, what I wanted to tell you was that in the examination hall, you get similar condition. If you have to solve 19 questions, you are given 3 hours. On average, for each question, you would find only 10 minutes, considering 20 and 10 marker, having different kinds of timing, 8 and 12. So average is 10 minutes per question. Okay. And for that, you have to start preparation from day one itself. And remember, you are competing against time, which is not in your hand. Okay. And when you have to compete against time, you do not have to think about what other people are doing. Okay. What all books they are reading, what all discussions they are doing on the Telegram group. Okay. You don't have to worry about those things. You know, some people also text me that, sir, so many students are writing these many things on this group. Sir, should I get worried? No, you do not have to get worried because they are just having a free discussion. Okay. You can be a part of it, you cannot be, or you may not be a part of it. Okay. As long as you are confident about whatever you have understood, you do not need to get anxious. Anxiety is one thing that you have to control over. Okay. Okay. Anxiety is one thing that you have to control over. Otherwise, there is no issue, there is no such thing that can prevent you from clearing this exam. All those people who do not clear, they are victim of only one thing, that is anxiety. Only one thing. Okay. Now, how should we have approached this question? Today I'll tell you how do we approach a question. Okay, whether it is 10 mark or 20 mark, it applies to both. It applies to both. Content comes later. First comes the approach. Okay, everybody has content. What should be the approach? Whenever you see a question like this, what should be the first step? The first step should be to identify keywords. This should be the first step. What are the keywords in the question? Okay. What are the keywords in the question? Second step is to define those keywords. Identify the keywords. Once identified, then define the keywords. And once you have defined the keywords, once we have done these two steps, the third step then should be to read the question. Now you can read the question. So basically, in the first go, you never read the question. You could only see keywords, just like for a student of chemistry, for example. He does not see water. He see only hydrogen and oxygen. Do you remember the first ever class that I took? Okay, at home. A student of chemistry cannot see water. He can only see hydrogen and oxygen. Similarly, you guys do not have to read the question. You should only be looking at the keywords. Identified, then defined, and then read the question now. And when you would read the question now, you would understand that there is a pattern. There is a pattern. What is the pattern? The pattern is all about how A led to B. That means the pattern is of causation. How A led to B. How H2 and O2 led to formation of water. This is what he is asking, how hydrogen and oxygen led to formation of water. So that means the pattern is causation. Okay. And whenever you have to explain causation, you have to explain, or you should have two things in your mind. One is independent variable. I'll explain these words, okay? And second is dependent variable. Causation. Causation simply means cause effect. Cause effect relation. And in cause effect relation, for example, smoking leads to cancer. What is this? This is causation relation. A led to B, right? Now, our job is to identify variables. What are the independent variable? Independent variable means smoking, in the sense cause. Whatever is cause is considered as independent variable. Independent variable. And whatever is effect is considered as dependent variable. Because cancer depends on smoking. So that is why it is dependent variable and smoking is independent variable. Okay. These 4 steps everyone should be following. Okay, everyone should be following. Now in some questions, you may not have a causation pattern. There would be questions where you do not find or come across any cause effect, how A led to B, anything like that. That question may be simply define A. Okay, simply. Although such kind of questions do not come in sociology. Question may be like define A and then what are the factors leading to A? Again, it is a causation. A becomes dependent variable and factors leading to A becomes independent variable. Cause effect, always remember this. Okay. Now, we are clear with these 4 things. Let us try to implement these 4 steps only for the time being. Okay, then I'll talk about rest of these steps. First, we will try to apply these 4 steps. Now, first step was identify keywords. Now, what are the keywords in this question? I have not even read the question. Okay, some invigilator has, placed this question sheet before me on my table. I'm sitting in the mains hall. Okay, I did not even look at the question. What you do in that 1 or 2 minute time until the invigilator asks you to open the seal. Okay, in those 1 or 2 minutes, you simply try to skim through the papers hidden in the seal or wrapped in the seal. Okay, try to go through. So you only come across keywords. You never come across full question. Okay, so here the keywords are intellectual forces. First keyword. Okay. And second keyword is emergence of sociology. Right? That means I did not see anything, only these 2 words, prima facie. Okay, when I looked at the question for the first time. First step is over, identification of keywords. Second step is definition. Now the question is, define what? Define intellectual forces. What is the meaning of intellectual forces? If I were to explain the meaning of intellectual forces without referring to Renaissance, scientific Renaissance, Enlightenment, French Industrial Revolution, these are although yes, these are forces, but what makes them intellectual forces is something that you have to explain. An intellectual force, if you remember, and if you have read the notes also, that is in the first page itself, it is clearly defined that intellectual forces are the forces which are characterized by change in ideas or thinking. Simple, short, sweet, and straightforward. Okay. Intellectual forces are the forces which are characterized by change in ideas or thinking. That means I did not start with any scholar. I did not quote any fancy line given by a scholar. Although I know, still I did not. Okay. Because we have to go in a systematic manner. Okay, we cannot, start randomly. There has to be a systematic procedure. So first was definition. Once you have defined intellectual force, the second keyword is sociology, emergence of sociology. Okay, so you have choice that you may define second definition. If you want to, you may define sociology, or you may simply what you do is to draw one arrow like this to show the relation, emergence of sociology. Okay, you saw keywords, you identified cause effect between these two. Okay, so cause effect is also over. Now comes the body part. This was introduction. Why such small introduction? Because the question is of 10 mark. And in 10 mark question, you have to write only 150 words. And 150 word means 2 pages. Technically 1 page. The back side of the page, if you include, that makes 2 page. Okay, so 2 page only that way, including the back side of that 1 page. So only 2 pages are given for 10 mark. Okay. Now, what would I do? I would draw this diagram. Middle age, intellectual forces, modernity, conservative, and then radical, and then finally sociology emerges. Always keep this diagram in your mind. Whatever question comes on origin, you will easily be able to trace exactly where you have to start from and where you have to end. This diagram will help you in doing that. Okay, whether the question is on a specific event like enlightenment and its contribution to sociology, or whether the question is a broader one like intellectual forces and emergence of sociology. In both cases, these diagrams will help you. Okay, not just you, it will also help the examiner to understand that you have the clarity. Okay, so most of the times diagrams are made only to show off your skills. Okay, it is not that diagram exclusively has any specific set of marks allocated to it. UPSC does not give any such suggestion or recommendation to us, but these are generally articulated just to express your creativity and individualism. Okay, you have to compete against so many people. These are small things that can make you different from them. Okay, now since the question is intellectual forces led to emergence of sociology, what will I do? I will simply mention here Renaissance, scientific Renaissance, Enlightenment, French Revolution, and then I will explain counter enlightenment. Remember, I am sure you guys did not write this. Some of you must have written counter enlightenment, but many did not, I am sure. Okay. Counter enlightenment was also a process of change in ideas. No? They were also resisting against the so-called changes in the ideas. So that was also a change in idea that way. Okay. Resistance against the idea is also an idea. Okay. So someone asked me, do you like chocolate ice cream? I would say no. I like vanilla. So that is also an idea. Resistance to the chocolate. Okay. So counter enlightenment. Now, One thing you also must have noticed, I did not write Industrial Revolution. Okay, because Industrial Revolution generally is not considered as an intellectual force. It was not an intellectual force. It was more of a material force. Remember, generally, this is how we categorize the world also, right? For example, education is an idea, but textbook is not an idea. It is a concrete reality. You cannot touch education, you cannot see education, but you can touch the textbook and see the textbook, right? So, education is intellectual force. It changes your ideas. But textbook is a material entity. Okay. Part of education, but not the intellectual force in itself. Okay. So, this is what you should have written. Now, the second question is, how much of the content should we write on each of these four, since the question is only 150 word? Okay, we have to write only 150 words. So how much of these have to be written? See, I would start with Renaissance. Instead of defining Renaissance or explaining the origin of Renaissance or the whole story of art and all those things, I would simply write keywords. Keywords is the weapon that you guys have. That is the only weapon. Okay, you cannot afford explaining the origins or histories. Okay, that is good for understanding, not for writing. For writing, you should have keywords. Humanism. Okay. Individualism, secularism. Just throw the keywords on the face of examiner. You have to make the life of examiner very easy. You cannot afford to irritate him. Okay. Once you write long paragraphs, he will get irritated. He may not even read the full para. Okay, and he will start searching all by himself. What are those things you have written in this para? And he does not have enough time. And this is a structural issue. That is not a personal trouble. It is a structural issue. They are given certain amount of time to evaluate the papers. Okay. And there are limited set of evaluators. Okay. And those are professors. And they have been given instructions specifically. Who are these people whose paper you are going to evaluate? These are not the students of sociology. These are the students preparing for civil services whose optional is sociology. They know all these things. So they are not expecting expertise from you guys. Okay. So Renaissance, humanism, individualism, secularism. And then you talk about scientific Renaissance. Okay. Basically, when you write this, you would have to explain that the biggest contribution of Renaissance was the invention of man and his potential. Invention of man and his potential was the contribution of Renaissance. Okay, when God declines or when God is questioned, then man is invented. Okay, and scientific revolution is nothing but manifestation of his potential in the natural world, in the exploration of the natural world. The potential that man has to explore, the innate potential that man possesses to explore the natural world in his own way, through his own observation, through his experimentation. Okay. So you remember those things very easily. You may write few names if you want to, like Galileo Galilei. Okay, I'm not talking about each line that you have to write. Okay, that would be like, spoon feeding. I don't want to do that. I just want to tell you the structure. So one line on each would be more than enough. And then suddenly after scientific revolution, you explain enlightenment. Enlightenment was nothing but basically the reflection of the same man and his articulation skills, or his curiosity, or his potential to understand the natural world. All those things were reflected even in the social world. He wanted to understand how social world is governed. He wanted to observe by himself what is the scientific form of governance that can be better for everyone. Okay, these all things were happening simultaneously in the social world. Enlightenment scholars were influenced by the scholars from scientific revolution only. Okay, and then comes French Revolution, which was the effect of Enlightenment ideas. And after French Revolution comes the Counter Enlightenment. And with Counter Enlightenment comes conservatives. And conservative reaction to the French Revolution had given rise to French sociology. French sociology. French sociology was considered as conservative sociology, consisting of people who were talking about reforms, not revolutions. They desisted revolutions, they talked about reforms only. Okay. So I hope these things are clear to you guys. Okay, so that way you did not have to mention industrial revolution, and instead of that you should have mentioned counter enlightenment. Okay. Okay. Even if you had not mentioned radical reaction, that would still be fine, because we are not talking explicitly about industrial revolution here, although radical can also be written in case of French revolution. Like for example, Karl Marx says that French revolution was a bourgeois revolution, but still, even if we do not write radical, that is okay. Okay, now comes the important part. Auguste Comte. Okay, some of you, when you guys read your notes, you must have come across this concept, intellectual disorder. When Auguste Comte is talking about intellectual disorder is prevailing all over Europe, prevailing all over France. Now the question is, what is this intellectual disorder that Auguste Comte is talking about? Auguste Comte was of the view, I'm simply giving you an overview right now, because anyhow we have to deal with Auguste Comte in the later part as well. Okay, so according to Auguste Comte, if you remember, he's a positivist, and as a positivist, what is the duty of a positivist scholar? To uncover those laws that govern the social world. Okay, if there is chaos in the social world, that means there is a law which can explain when this disorder will get neutralized, and we will have an order once again, proper order. Okay, this is the this is how the laws help the social scientist to understand the working of the world. This is, today we have disorder, tomorrow we can have order. How do we know this? Because there is a law which explains this. Okay, like for example, generally we say that it's night, after few hours you will have day. Okay, so this is a law of nature. Similarly, there is a law in society. Okay, now I'll explain you very briefly Auguste Comte, very briefly, because anyhow we have to deal with him in the later times as well. Okay, Very briefly, Auguste Comte, and then very briefly, I will explain you the precursors. This is also one word that you must have come across, precursors to sociology. Okay, philosophy of history. Biological theory of evolution. Survey of social conditions. Okay. Auguste Comte has given laws of stages. Auguste Comte has given one law, laws of stages. Okay, what is the meaning of law of stages? He believes that there are three stages that every society has to go through. Three stages. Just like in the life of a human being, there are stages like infancy, adulthood, then elderly. These are stages. Similarly, in society, also we have stages. Now, what are the stages of society? During the childhood of society, the society is in a stage called as theological stage. And when Auguste Comte is writing this law, he is writing in the context of the French Revolution and Enlightenment. Okay, he has that context in his mind and then he developed these laws. First stage of society is theological stage. Then comes metaphysical stage. And then comes scientific stage. These are the laws of stages. Okay. These are the three stages. Theological stage is something that you guys have already read. Theological stage is a stage of society where people explain everything around them in a religious fashion. For example, what do I have to do? This is one question. Okay. So the answer would be obey the commands of priestly class. If you want to go to heaven, this is what you have to do all through your life. Okay. So should I not be preparing for civil service? What is civil service? There is only one service, the service to divine. This is what you have to do. Okay. Okay. So everything had explanation according to religious notions. Okay. And this was the time of Middle Ages. You guys remember this very well. Auguste Comte simply gave it a name, theological stage. Okay. And that was when it was the theological stage was till 1300 AD. Renaissance came after 1300 only. Okay. So till 1300 we were living in medieval ages or dark ages. Okay. Metaphysical stage was from 1300 to 1800. And what was happening in these 500 years? All those intellectual forces that you have read were actually, you know, happening in these 500 years only, starting with Renaissance till counter enlightenment. Okay. Metaphysical. Now, what is the meaning of metaphysical stage? Metaphysics is abstraction, basically, abstraction. You do not have the concrete order, you do not have the concrete reality before you, but one thing is definite. You have somehow managed to get over the old knowledge that world is governed by divinity or there are religious laws. You have somehow gotten over those things, but you have still not gone into the concrete nature of man's reality and the scientific form of governance that man should have. Okay, you are somewhere in between these two. Okay. So this was a stage when man was being discovered, his potential was being discovered, his potential in the field of literature, arts, sciences, polity, economy. Reforms were being suggested by different scholars. There was no specific order as it is. Things were changing. So everything was in an abstract fashion. Okay. Abstraction. Abstract order. And then comes, according to Auguste Comte, 1800 onwards, we will have scientific stage. Scientific stage means a stage where man is explaining everything, not in terms of religion or abstraction, but in terms of facts, scientific facts. Like, for example, suppose I am a man of middle age, so called theological stage, and someone asks me, यार बारिश नहीं हो रही है बहुत टाइम से. Okay, it's not raining, it's been long time. Then what will I do? What will I tell to that man? I will say, let's do some havan, let's do some rituals. It will definitely bring rain. Okay, let's have a rain dance. God may become happy and then he may shower some rains. Okay, this is the kind of explanation that I was giving in those times. Okay, so क्या करेंगे फिर उसके बाद? हवन करेंगे और कुछ नहीं करेंगे. ठीक है, this was the theological stage. Now, in metaphysical stage, someone asked me this question, बारिश नहीं हो रही यार, बहुत टाइम हो गया. What will I tell him? I'll tell him, one thing is quite sure, that all those rituals and havans that we were doing back in those times are useless. Let's not do havan. Let's wait for some time. We will get to know what exactly is required for the rainfall to happen. We are still discovering, so many friends I have made. Galileo Galilei is very close friend. I'll ask him one day. Okay, because he is engaged in observing the world. He is actually trying to unleash how the world works. So he may be having the answer to this question, when will rain happen. Okay, so just wait for the second. So this wait for a second, this second actually went for 500 years. Okay, nobody got to know the absolute reality of the working of the natural world, or for that matter of the working of the social world. Auguste Comte believed the moment we entered into scientific stage, the worldview was now to become purely scientific. Now the man, the so-called man who was discovered in those times, this man has become so powerful that today he can make the rain possible even in the desert. Without rituals, without rain dance, what do you have to do? You just have to spray silver iodide. Silver iodide on the clouds, and then artificial rain will happen. So man has become the conqueror. The idea of man the conqueror is the idea of scientific stage. Okay, the same man who was conquered by the divine The same man killed the God in the first place. When Nietzsche says, you know, God is dead, we have killed him. How shall we confront ourselves? अपने आप की शक्ल हम देखेंगे कैसे? We have killed someone who kills everyone. We are the murderers of all the murderers. Okay. But this man has become so powerful that he can bring artificial rain. He can prevent the asteroid coming to the earth. He can deflect the asteroid. This much of power the man has gotten now. And in those times when asteroids used to come, in those times, you know what was the explanation given to those asteroids? You know, this is the curse of God. You are not listening, you ordinary men. We are telling you, if you do not listen to us again, this asteroid will, come to your house. It will devastate your life. So come to church every day, obey us. Okay. So this is what the kind of life was at that point of time. And this is the kind of life that we have today before us. Okay. Now, let me now come back to the context in which Auguste Comte was writing all these things. As I told you, Auguste Comte is a conservative scholar. And whatever he wrote was in reaction to the French Revolution and Enlightenment. Being a conservative, obviously, he did not like whatever the revolutionary changes he witnessed before him after these intellectual forces. Okay. But he knew one thing. He said, today we have disorder before us. A complete intellectual disorder I can see before us. How? People are being killed, kings are being executed. The same king who used to execute people, the same is now being executed by those people. Queen is being executed. People are killing each other. This is a stage of disorder, right? Now the question is, being a scientist of society, so-called positivist scholar that he was, or he claimed himself to be, he believed that I can tell that when the normal order will come, when everybody used to live in a peaceful manner in those times, in the Middle Ages, similarly, again a time will come when everybody would now be leading a peaceful life, when there would be no execution, there would be no revolt, there would be only order, proper order. Now the question is, how was he so sure about this thing? Just like a natural scientist predicts every day, when you read newspapers, you read what are the chances of the rain to happen today. Every day, meteorologist will tell you rain will happen today at this point of time. Okay. Auguste Comte believed, I can tell when will the order come. I am the scientist of society. Okay. People believed him. So people asked him, when will order come? So he said, the reason for disorder that we can see before us, a disorder where people's lives are being executed and killed every day like nothing. The reason for this disorder is, first he explained what is the reason of disorder, and then he told how the order will come. Reason of disorder. He said, although we are living in 1800, okay, although we are living in 1800 or close to 1800, 1790s, okay, that is very close to 1800s. So that way, only science should have dominated, or scientific explanation should have dominated the intellect of the masses. But the problem is, we have disorder before us because people are still religious. People are still thinking in metaphysical fashion, abstract nature. Okay, they do not have complete order in their minds. They are not able to explain scientifically why these things are happening. whatever is being happening. Okay, they are still so much, if you remember the Auguste Comte himself, he was a conservative scholar. He himself did not like the idea of monarchy being challenged. He himself was religious man that way. Okay, and he said the reason for disorder is people challenging religion. Yes, okay, but there are people who are challenging those people who are challenging religion. So it's a complete chaos. When will the complete order come? When there is only one form of knowledge which is accepted by everyone without any dispute, and that is the scientific knowledge. Okay. Unless that knowledge comes, society will always be in disorder. And the reason of disorder to Auguste Comte was that religious and metaphysical explanation still prevailed. Even in the even in 1800s, we are giving religious explanation to things. Forget 1800s, today is 2020. You will see people explaining even coronavirus, giving religious explanations even to the coronavirus. Okay, महाकाल का ये वो है, पता नहीं क्या क्या बोलते हैं लोग. I can't even tell you those things. Okay, unless all of us accept one order. For example, suppose if I have class of 10 students before me, and all the 10 students are reading the same thing, writing the same thing. Okay, there is an order. Okay, if one is reading this, second is reading this, third is reading that, fourth is writing this, fifth is, so obviously it will be chaos. Today, although we live in a constitutional India, okay, but that does not mean that all of us are secular. Okay, there is one scholar, Ashish Nandi, NTN Madan. They say that although India has become secular, but the Indians are still religious. And this is the problem. This is why we elect people like these. Okay. And this is why disorder. So unless we have complete scientific form of knowledge, scientific form of governance, and scientific explanation to the natural phenomena, unless we reach that world where everyone is conforming to the scientific knowledge, we will always have disorder one or the other way. Okay. And he believed how sociology can help. Write down one line. Auguste Comte believed that sociology can help the societies to advance into the scientific stage. Sociology can help the societies to advance into the scientific stage. Secondly, sociology can help society to understand the reasons for disorder. to understand the reasons for disorder. Third, sociology can help to study the laws, to study the laws governing the social order, to study the laws governing the social order and social disorder. Okay, so this was the vision of Auguste Comte. And he believed one more line. He also believed that positivism is a philosophy. He also believed that positivism is a philosophy that can help us discover those laws. In conclusion, the underlying assumption of positivism is, in conclusion, the underlying assumption of positivism is that society can be studied scientifically. That society can be studied scientifically. Auguste Comte once said, Auguste Comte once said, once said के बाद क्या लिखना है आपको? You have to write like this, okay? Auguste Comte once said, and then comma, and then inverted comma. Because now I'm going to say something which has been said by him, verbatim, okay? Verbatim means as it is, copy paste. Much as the natural world is governed by law of physics, much as the natural world is governed by laws of physics, so does society. Much as the natural world is governed by laws of physics, so does society. That means just like natural world is governed by laws of physics, like law of gravitation by Newton. Similarly, society is also governed by some laws. Who would find those laws? We, the sociologist, will find those laws. अच्छा, ठीक है, देखते हैं कितने laws find करते हैं ये लोग. Okay, let us see to what extent are they successful in finding those laws. Okay, you know what is the biggest challenge in studying society scientifically? The biggest challenge is a doctor or a biologist who's a scientist of body, human body. He can study human body because he can see human body. He can dissect human body into pieces and see the working of the organs of human body and the defects, malfunction, where which organ has failed, which organ can be transplanted. This much will be the cost, hardly 10 crores. Okay, so just pay us 10 crore and then everything will be fine. Okay, then once you have recovered, you start looking for loans. Okay, that's how your life then leads. You lead your life like this, okay, in loans. Anyhow, so a biologist or a doctor can see human body before him. He can dissect it. He can cut the organs, replace the organs. A geologist, not zoologist, geologist can study the rocks because he can see the rocks. He can cut the rocks. He can see the composition of rocks or minerals which have composed the rocks. But a sociologist cannot see the society. You cannot see the society. You know, if I'm a student of sociology, I cannot see society. I can only see people fighting with each other, texting each other, having romance with each other, or quarreling with each other, or having dinner, coughing, okay, having party at some restaurant. I cannot see society. I can only see people. I can only see school. I can see organizations, but I cannot see society as a whole. You can see human body as a whole. I cannot see society just like that as a whole. And this is actually the biggest reason for Auguste Comte to call sociology as the queen of sciences. Why queen? According to Auguste Comte, sociology is the queen of sciences. Okay? Because sociology is studying something that is not visible, and that is the toughest challenge. It is not an easy task to uncover the laws governing the social world. You can understand the laws of physics, law of gravitation. You fall the object will fall like this. Understand this is law of gravitation. Okay, but why an individual committed suicide can also be explained by a law. Why did you start feeling bored when you were working in those companies? Some of you are working professionals. This can also be explained by a law. You cannot think like that. There are some laws also. If I'm feeling bored at home, okay, reading some book, there is a law to explain this also. I did not know this. Yeah, you did not know this because you have not yet read sociology. Once you read sociology, everything has a law. Acha. So, there are some people who are so much fascinated by the idea of sociology that they keep explaining sociology in everything they see. You don't have to become like that. Okay. Those are only the so-called positivist scholars. We do not have to become, or we do not have to think like a positivist every time. That's good only for the introduction to sociology, not more than that. Okay. I remember, when did I feel that, yes, there are some laws also. Yes, some laws can explain. Although then I start realizing that, not everything should be explained through law all the time. Sometimes other person starts thinking this is very common sense. Why do you have to think about sociology every time? This is common sense only. Okay. So what happened one day, when I joined, after my college, I had joined DRDO. Okay. So DRDO is one of the most premier institution, considered as the most premier institution in research and development for defense. Okay. So defense research and development organization. So, and I was in Jodhpur at that point of time. So I was very excited. Okay. That yes, I got a job in DRDO. Wow, wow. So when I joined DRDO, first 7 days, for the first month, everything, you easily spend the first month in simply lounging around the campus. Okay. You do not even look into the kind of profile or the kind of work that you would have to do. Okay. One day I was assigned one task, and we were a team of 10 people. The task was, the project that we were given was that, for the people, for the army soldiers who are operating in the desert area, because Jodhpur is very close to the Pakistan's border. Okay, so for those army soldiers, we had to develop an alloy. Okay, that can keep their body temperature normal or cool while they are in the borders. Okay, so this was an alloy that we were working on. So what was the routine that we had? So every morning we would wake up, we would go to office, and then we would meet our supervisor. He would tell us, this is where you have to pick those metals from. Okay, insert those metals in that chamber, wait for some 30 minutes or 1 hour, then it will get into a liquid stage, that is an alloy. Okay, and then you wait for it to get solidified, or you insert some more metal in there. All these, this is something that we have been doing repetitively. Okay, for 2-3 months, this is what I was. And on the phone I used to tell, I'm working in DRDO, Defense Research Development, but I never used to explain what exactly the kind of work that we were doing. Okay, so just because we were in government jobs, so we were so happy. Okay, so but then I realized, I started wondering, is this what Karl Marx talks about when he says alienation is something that all of us would feel, when we are doing a repetitive job, which seems very specialized. You would somehow feel that you are doing a very specialized task that no other common or an ordinary man can do. But doing specialized task repetitively and monotonously or automatically would make you feel as if you are a cog in the machine. Cog in the machine. Cog in the machine in the sense, are simply a part of the larger assembly. Okay. Every day you are greased, lubricated. The same task is being done repetitively. And this is why people want to become IAS. This is the only reason. Because it is not only about DRDO or any private organization. Everywhere you see this. And IAS is the only service that kills alienation. It is the only service of all the services. Okay, except Indian Foreign Service, which is something I don't want to talk about. Okay, IAS is something that kills alienation because you get so much of diverse work. One day you are working in the Department of Education. After 1 month, you are working in the Department of Mines. Two completely opposite things. Mines and education, no relation, direct relation at least. Okay, this is the kind of diverse portfolio you get. Anyhow, let me come back to the discussion that I was having. All you guys must have now understood the larger philosophy of positivism. Okay, it's about the laws, just like natural scientist talks about laws governing the nature. They talk about law governing the social world. Okay. If you remember, in the last diagram that I made, I talked about last diagram in the sense the previous class, I talked about conservative, radical, and then I talked about structural functionalism, Marxism, and then I said that both of them are positivist philosophies. Both of them. यही बोला था ना मैंने. And now you know what is positivism. At least you have a brief idea, because Anyhow, you have to deal again with positivism in unit 2. But then by the time we reach unit 2, everything will become so easy to you. That is why I'm explaining maximum things which anyhow we have to deal today itself, so that by the time you reach that unit, things become very easier to you. Okay. Positivist philosophies. And one more thing you can write in that positivist explanation that I have told to you. One more thing. Other than studying or discovering the laws governing the social world, other than studying or studying or uncovering the laws governing the social world, positivists also predict the future of the social world. Positivists also predict the future of the social world. Okay. So it is not only limited to observation or theorization of laws, but it is also about prediction. And positivism is a predictive science. Just like in the natural world, scientists make predictions. Okay. So is the case with the social scientists. They also make prediction. And I told you, Marxism is a positivist philosophy. What does it mean? That in the philosophy of Karl Marx, you will see all these elements that you have just written in the positivism. You will see all these elements, starting from uncovering the laws governing the social world and prediction. The element of prediction you would always find in the writings of Karl Marx. Marx had made one prediction. Revolution is inevitable. You cannot prevent it. One day working class will rise up from the ashes, overthrow the bourgeois, and establish socialism. This was his prediction. Okay. And then communism will come. He is predicting. Okay. Like someone is just imagine there is one highway from Delhi to Chandigarh. There is one highway. Okay. Someone told me one day that you can what you should do is that you should show your hand to one astrologer. He will tell you exactly what is your future. Okay. So one fine day I went to that astrologer. Okay. An astrologer telling me about my future. And Karl Marx, when he talks about future of society, he is again speaking like an astrologer of society. Although he calls himself scientist. But there is a difference between scientist and astrologer. And this is something that you will come to know in unit 2. Astrology and science. Okay. How come they are different? Both of them are involved in prediction and future, all those things. But there is a huge difference. You will come to know eventually whether Karl Marx should be called as scientist or not. What makes him scientist? And what is science? These are some of the questions that we will confront. Anyhow, so now you understand these things. And now the last doubt that you guys had. Precursors to sociology. Philosophy of history. What is the meaning of precursor? What is the meaning of precursor? Precursor means something that exists prior to sociology. There was no discipline at that point of time which could explain why these revolutions are happening. French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, Enlightenment, Intellectual Revolution. Enlightenment is also revolution, intellectual revolution. Okay. Nobody could explain why these revolutions suddenly in these 400 years, why all these disorderly events are happening. Why have suddenly people started questioning God? What is so wrong with these? There was the whole society was looking for societal astrologer. Okay, why these things are happening? Nobody could explain, and that is why sociology emerged. So imagine a sociologist speaking like this. I will tell you why all these things are happening. Then you would start comparing that sociologist with that priestly class. Priestly class used to tell why the world is like this and what do you have to do. And then comes Auguste Comte, calling himself scientist of sociology and speaking exactly in the same language that those clergy class was speaking. Auguste Comte said, I can tell you the reasons for these disorders, and I have formulated a law which can predict, through which I can predict when the order will get restored, everything will be in a proper equilibrium fashion. And this is why positivism, although it is a scientific method to study society, but there are many people who calls positivism a new form of religion and positivist a new form of clergyman. Okay, so these are again those things that will help you understand the future aspects of the syllabus. Okay, what is philosophy of history? At that point of time, as I've told you, there was no discipline to explain why these changes are happening, disorders are happening. There were only few disciplines that were engaged in the study of society at that point of time until sociology came. And one of that discipline was philosophy of history. This is one subject that was being taught in the universities at those point of time. And what was the essence of this subject? The essence of this subject was that society moves. Society moves in a linear fashion. In a linear fashion. From simple to complex stage. Society moves in a linear fashion from simple to complex stage. Okay. This was one discipline that was being taught before sociology. Second discipline was biological theory of evolution. Biological theory of evolution simply explains or used to explain that society is just like a human body. Our human body grows from infant stage to adulthood. Similarly, society also grows from infant stage to adulthood. And during this whole process of becoming an adult from child, you often come across many troubles. You know, teacher would have slapped you hundred of times in your school before you became adult. Okay, your mother would have scolded you tons of times. Your father must have admonished you for spending, you know, uh, spending in unnecessary things. Okay, for asking him every time, Papa's father is calling us. How is your preparation going? Yes, Papa, सही है, सब बढ़िया चल रहा है. Okay, you are speaking everything. You are telling him everything about your preparation. And the moment he is going to hang up the phone, Papa, वो थोड़े से पैसे, थोड़े से बस, ज़्यादा नहीं. अभी फिर then your father would say, बेटा अभी तो दिए थे एक हफ्ते पहले, कहाँ गए वो? So you have gone through all these stages, or you may face these things. Okay, and this is part of evolution. And this is what biological theory also explains, that society grows like human body. Society grows like human body. Okay, our human body consists of multiple organs. Okay, heart, liver, kidney, brain, and all these parts are important, equally important. You cannot say that brain is more important than heart or liver is more important than kidney. You will never be able to do that. You know that all of these parts are important. Only then you can live. Similarly, in society, so society also consists of different parts. What are the parts of society? Economy is one part of society. Religion is one part of society. Family is one part of society. Media is one part of society. State is one part of society. Okay. Law is another part of society. Okay. That means society, just like human body, consists of multiple parts. And can you say which of these parts, law, media, education, religion, family, can you ever say that which part is most important? No. All the parts are equally important for your growth, for the growth of individual. Okay. And who is that scholar who compared human body with society for the first time? That was Herbert Spencer. Herbert Spencer. Herbert Spencer. Just remember this much for the time being. Anyhow, I'm going to explain these things now. Okay. Just remember this much, that there were disciplines before sociology came into existence. There were some disciplines who were studying some of the bits of the things that were being supposed to be studied by sociology. Okay, and those disciplines were: one, philosophy of history, simply explaining that society moves in linear fashion; biological theory, explaining society moves like a human body consisting of multiple organs. Okay, and then the last discipline before sociology, the last discipline that we had or was being taught in the universities were survey of social conditions. Survey of social conditions. And this discipline is very important, because not just this, but the last two which I explained are also equally important, because from all the three, sociology has borrowed one or the other thing, which you will eventually come to know. Okay. Survey of social condition. What is the meaning? It is only through this discipline. Survey was a discipline at one point of time. One thing that you generally ignore, when you come out of movie hall, you would often come across a journalist. Okay, if you have gone for a first day first show, he will ask you what was the movie like. So he's conducting a survey only. Okay, asking your reviews. Okay, collecting data from you guys. And there was a point of time when survey was a discipline. Okay, and when this discipline came into existence, survey of social condition, what were the findings? The findings was that poverty is not the creation of God. This was the first time that we discovered poverty is not a natural creation. If you remember that Victorian hymn I told you, rich man in his castle, poor man at his gates, God made them highly and lowly, and ordered their estates. That means poverty as a phenomena was attributed to the God. Why am I poor, God? It is your karma. It is your karma that you are poor. And if you do not obey me, in the next life you will be born as insect. Okay. It is your sins that you have committed in your previous life, because of which you have become poor in this life. This was the explanation to poverty. And today, how do we explain poverty? Today, in order to understand poverty, government establishes committees. Suresh Tendulkar Committee, Sri Rangarajan Committee. That means we are not attributing poverty to the divine. We are interested in studying how poverty came into existence. What is that one thing which these people lack, because of which they should be called as poor? What is the criteria of poverty? That means we are studying poverty just like a doctor would study cancer. Cancer is not being attributed to God. There was a point of time when we used to have those people having that jhadu in their hands, and they used to simply rotate that wand, magic wand, okay, around the body of that person. Now you would get all right. Okay, there is no cancer, there is no treatment for this thing. This is only treatment. This is the only treatment that we have just given, magic wand. Okay, so there was no medical sciences even in those times, in the theological stage. But today we have medical science to explain cancer. It is not natural phenomena. It is constructed because of our everyday habits. Sometimes even scientists are not able to explain the origin of cancer. This guy did not even smoke even once in his life, did not even drink, still this guy got cancer. And then medical doctors also become helpless, and they say we can't do anything against the wishes of God. So when science fails, religion automatically comes to your rescue. Anyhow, when poverty at that point of time was seen as a natural phenomena, creation of God, this discipline, survey of social conditions, told us that poverty is constructed, it is a structural conditions which is coming out as a result of industrialization. Slum development was the byproduct of industrialization. And then that is how poverty came. It is not natural. It is not natural. Some people are poor because of these religious doctrines that God has made them like this. Some people are poor because they belong to third estate. It is not natural on their part to be poor. Had they been born in first estate, they would have been rich. Okay, but since you believe that only few people are from the nobility, this cannot be someone from nobility, so he will remain poor. So poverty is not natural, it is socially constructed because of the rules that we make. For example, just to give you one example, one more Indian example, okay, it will be more easier for you to relate to that. If you compare condition of Dalits with the upper caste men or women, you will see that Dalits are relatively poorer in comparison to upper caste man. Okay, you will find such data that Dalit people are poorer in comparison to upper caste men or women. Now the question is, why? A common man would say these people are poor because they did not get jobs. They could not get themselves educated. This is the common sense explanation. But a scientist would actually uncover the conditions responsible for the poverty of specific section. Why only lower caste people are poor? Why the same things are not being... If lower caste did not get education and that's how he became poor, how come upper caste men got education? Just because he was upper caste. So that means it is the factor of caste which is making someone poor. It is not some god. Although caste as a factor is the result of religion only. Okay, so survey of social conditions actually focused on the material conditions responsible for poverty. Material conditions responsible for poverty. And it was only through survey that poverty was no longer considered natural occurrence. It was only through survey that we came to realize that poverty was no longer a natural occurrence. Rather, it is the result of or the byproduct of industrialization. Okay, it is the byproduct of industrialization. It is the byproduct of poor urban planning. It is the byproduct of lack of welfare schemes. Okay, and these are the things that we have to take into consideration. We should talk about welfare schemes. We should talk about proper urban management. Okay, we should establish committees to classify the people into अंत्योदय अन्न अंत्योदय अन्न, ठीक है, जिसके लिए योजना बनेगी, poorest of the poor. We should be classifying people in terms of BPL, APL. Okay, and this was the first time that men had started getting classified, just like objects were being classified by the scientists at one point of time, metallic, non-metallic. Similarly, APL, BPL, man is now being classified. Poverty is now being studied in a scientific fashion, just like, the natural reactions were being studied. Okay, so now I hope this is clear to you. Now, if you come across the question, coming back to the first question that I gave to you, intellectual forces, how they led to the emergence of sociology, in that question you should be speaking about these three also. These three also. Okay, these three also. And that question was asked by UPSC last year only. And similar to such questions, UPSC has been asking, okay, many times UPSC has asked such questions, okay, almost on similar lines. And if you count all the keywords that I talked about, starting from middle age to modernity, including conservative, and all these three, you will find that these keyword only would make 70 words or 60 words approximately out of the 150 that you have to write. And if you write mainly around keywords, you will definitely get more marks in comparison to someone who might have started explaining the origin of Renaissance. There must have been few people as well amongst you who must have started explaining everything, that God, was one phenomena that was controlling human being. Okay, church, priestly class used to tell that your life on the earth is inconsequential. What matters is afterlife, heaven. Okay, these things were not supposed to be written. You had to be very, very focused and targeted. You had to write very specific things. These things are good only for understanding, not for writing. Okay. Understanding is essential. Of course, you cannot rote learn. You should not be rote learning. But the second important feature is writing. When you write, you should be targeting keywords only. Okay. And that is why today's session, voluntarily I decided to make it more focused on the aspect of writing and to see whether you guys are adept at writing in a given set of time. In the sense, are you skilled enough to write the answer in 8 minutes? And what kind of pressure does it build up when you see the clock ticking by your side. Okay, this is one thing that you should be prepared for, not just only for in sociology but also in GS. Okay, so that is why I decided to make today's session exclusively focused on writing aspects and some few other aspects that you wanted me to discuss, like this and the meaning of positivism or intellectual disorder. I hope these things are clear to you so we can safely proceed further and finish the rest of the topics. Okay, now I can assume that the basics are very much clear to you before we can proceed further. Okay. Okay, so it's 4 p.m. now. Okay, I will take hardly 15 minutes, not more time. Okay, I won't take much of your time, 15 minutes maximum. Write down the topic, structural functionalism. Structural functionalism. It is also called as functionalism. It is also called as structural theory. It is also called as consensus theory. It is also called as consensus structuralism. All these are the names of one and the same thing. Yeah. Now, it's very easy. Just remember one thing. Functionalism and structural functionalism are one and the same thing. One and the same thing. No difference at all unless you are a student of anthropology. Okay? There is no difference between functionalism, structural functionalism. Okay? Because why I'm telling you this? Because uh, some people are there who have already studied sociology. Okay? Who are also with us. They should know this thing. Okay? In case they have learned it wrong, they should know this thing. Generally, people attribute functionalism to Durkheim. Structural functionalism to Merton. ऐसा नहीं होता है. Okay, although these things are very far away from us, but still पहले ही दिन करेक्ट कर दें तो ज़्यादा बेटर है. What is structural functionalism or functionalism? Very simple. There is one human body. This is a man. Okay. This is the brain. This is the heart. Okay. This is the lung. Okay. Liver, kidney, ओके, हाँ हो सकता है कि वो लिवर किडनी थोड़ा इधर उधर हो गया हो, डजेंट मैटर, ठीक है। लंग, ब्रेन, हार्ट, लिवर, किडनी, दिस इज मैन और अ ह्यूमन बीइंग। नाउ कम्स सोसाइटी। Society also has parts: religion, economy, law, family, state, media, and so many other parts. So many parts are there. Okay, countless parts. How do you ensure that when you sleep tonight, you will wake up next day? Only when you lead healthy life, then only you can ensure that yes, I can wake up next day. Okay. So when you know that your heart is functioning properly, your liver is functioning properly, your kidney is functioning properly, your lungs are functioning properly, your brain is functioning properly, then it is very easy for you to tell whether you will be waking up tomorrow or not. And only then you will lead a healthy life when all the organs are working properly. Okay. Similarly, when will society work properly? When all the organs of society are working in a proper fashion, then you will say that society will have no disorder the next day. It will be in an equilibrium, just like our human body. Okay. So, basic philosophy of this structural functional theory is that write down all the parts of the society, all the parts of the society all the parts of the society play a function, play a function to make the survival of society possible. All the parts of society play a function to make the survival of society possible. Okay. The survival of body is possible only when the organs of the body are, functioning properly. The brain is functioning properly, only then I can receive information from you guys. Only then I can read the text, understand the text. Okay. If my heart is working properly, then only I can have exercise at gym, or I can have a jogging at the park. Okay. If my lungs are working properly, only then I would not feel any deficiency of oxygen. Okay, and I would be consuming a purified air. Okay, pure oxygen if my lungs are working properly. Okay, if my kidney is working properly, only then I would, whatever water I would consume, that would be urinated, and this whole process would be seamless. No issue at all. Okay, and so is the case with liver, and then only I would say that yes, everything is fine in my life. Okay. Similarly, in society, each part is playing a proper function. Just imagine, what is the function of religion? See, when I ask you the function, what is the function of heart? You will easily tell me what is the function of heart in your body. You will easily tell me. Okay, what is that contribution that heart is making to the whole body? You can easily tell me. Now, if I ask you, what is the function of religion to the whole body of society? Think like this. So, what will be the function of religion? Just to give you one example, I will say, okay, I'm giving one example only, that religion is one institution that gives us norms or ethics. Unless we have those norms or values or ethics, we cannot lead a moral life. In order to have a moral life, we should be having some ethics, morality, values, or norms. And these norms are given to us by religion. How? How religions are giving us these norms? The people who are Christian, they have Bible, 10 commandments. What are those 10 commandments? It is a normative order. Those 10 commandments will help you lead your life in a moral fashion. If you read Buddhism, if you are a student of Buddha, you must have read Panchavrata, the 5 principles. Do not commit sin. Do not ever steal. Do not ever lie. Okay. Do not ever intoxicate alcohols, consume alcohol or drug. This is what Buddha told us. And so is the case with Mahavir Jain. Every religion gives us ethics, set of ethics and morality. Okay. Now suppose, just to give you one example, what religion is doing to the society. Okay. Suppose this class is my society, this class, and I have 10 students sitting in front of me, and all the 10 are Buddhist. All the 10 are Buddhist. Okay. And all those 10 people know that we should not be drinking alcohol. That is not good for us. So what will happen? My classroom would not have any person talking about alcohol, or would not be having any person who brings alcohol to the classroom. And that way my classroom would be in proper order every day. Okay. And suppose one of the student in my class is a follower of some god. Is a follower of some god. Okay, I don't want to name it because it's very controversial these days to speak anything like that. Okay, is a follower of some god who is impressed only with alcohol. Okay, so his morality, his line of ethics, everything will be very quite different from those Buddhist people. Okay, and this will always create conflict between these people. For that person, the party would always mean 10 rupees Lay's packet and that bottle. And for these Buddhist people, the concept of party would mean something else. So these guys would not sit together. Disorderly situation. And religion does similar thing to society. It gives us norms. And those norms help to maintain order in society. Okay. When all of us share similar beliefs, all of us share similar values, society will always be in order. Just like those 10 people shared similar belief in my classroom was in order. The moment some other person came in, order got disturbed. Okay, remember this thing. This is the philosophy of structural functionalism. So write down one line, first line. I mean second line. Okay. It is believed, it is believed that society consists of multiple organs. Society consists of multiple organs, and each organ contributes to the maintenance of society as a whole. And each organ contributes to the maintenance of society as a whole. Okay. And this maintenance of order is known as social equilibrium. This maintenance of order, basically this situation where you see the order maintained, is called as social equilibrium. Social equilibrium. Now this word is also coming from biology only. In environment, when you read environment, your teacher or the books that you are referring to, they must have told you, or those books must have also told you about the concept called as homeostasis. 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 What is the meaning of homeostasis? Homeostasis means when the organs of the body are working properly, then you are comfortable. Simple. Equilibrium is maintained in your body because all the organs are working properly. So similarly, in society also, when all the organs are working properly, equilibrium of society is maintained, order is maintained. Okay. This is the homeostasis, what we call as social equilibrium. Okay. Just now I told you the function of religion to the society. Now the next question could be, what is the function of law? What is the function of law to the society? Law always ensures nobody dares to break the norms or order of society. This order or this norm was institutionalized by religion and family. See, both your parents and your gods will always tell you, this is how you should be leading your life. बेटा कभी किसी से उधार का पैसा मत लेना, ठीक है? Your parents will tell you, no, beta, never ever take or borrow any money from. We are always there. Give us a call. We will help you. Never take or never borrow money from anyone. Okay? You will never be written in good books. अगर आप ऐसे करते रहोगे आपकी जिंदगी फिर बचेगी नहीं, कुछ उधार ही मानते रहोगे जिंदगी में. तो ये मैंने सीखा पेरेंट्स से, ठीक है? ये एक लेसन सीख लिया मैंने. So religion, whether it is family, both of us tells us the norms or values required to live peacefully in society. And in case we try to break those laws, what will happen? Law will get activated. My parents told me, whenever you see red light, do not cross it. Do not cross it. Okay. One day I crossed it. पुलिस आ गई मेरे पीछे, पैसा दिया. The very act. Acha, one day what happened, I'll tell you. Okay. One day I stopped at the red light. It was a very, very long red light, for 2 minutes I stopped there. Okay. I was waiting for that red light to get green so that I could go home as soon as possible. The next second I saw another biker You know, he did not wait for the red light to get green. He simply crossed. And I was looking at that man. That am I a fool that I should be waiting here? And these guys are simply crossing and violating the laws. Nobody is there to stop them. The moment red light became green, when it was my turn now to go, I saw that man was being caught by police. Okay. And then I got happy. Okay. So if I obey like a normal citizen, so then these people who do not obey the law, they will get punished and order will again get restored. And people's faith in the law will again get restored. So I felt happy that law is there to maintain the order whenever someone tries to break the order. Okay, this is the function of law to the society. Okay, so every organ has one or the other function to the society, and all those organs are functioning largely to maintain the system or the society as a whole, just like all the organs in the body are working to maintain our human body only. Okay, this is what the structural functionalism is all about. Now, the last question, and then class will be over. The last question is, what if my heart stops functioning, or my brain stops functioning, or my lung stops functioning? What will happen? Either I will become disabled or I will die. There are two scenarios. Either I will become disabled or I will die. Similarly, in society, what if religion is removed or religion stops functioning? What if economy stops functioning? What if state stops functioning or law stops functioning? Society will also get disabled. There will be chaos and disorder. Just imagine if there was no lockdown imposed by the state. Okay, then there would have been no pause to this rising peak. Okay, and maybe you were or I was going to be the next person, okay, who could have died. We should be thankful to the state, to the law, that they maintained the order. If law was not functioning, if state was not functioning, all of us would have died. Similarly, if organs do not fail, we die now. So that's why when economy does not function properly, what happens? Recession or inflation or hyperinflation or stagflation. Okay, stagnation plus inflation, stagflation. Okay, this so this is what happens when these organs of society are not working properly. Okay, and when these organs were not working properly, all these conservative scholars called that phase the phase of anarchy. In those times, religion was questioned for the first time. The order that was maintained in the society in the name of God, the rule of King Louis 1516, or the whole lineage was considered as sacred only because people had faith in religion. Suddenly, one day, religion was questioned. What was the result? Disorder. Economy, the collapse of economy was also one of the reasons for French Revolution. Remember this? 7 years war between France and Britain. and all the money that was spent in American Revolution also, because France was very much supportive of the idea of French American Revolution also. Okay, so when organs of the society stop functioning or malfunction, society has to witness collapse, and this was the name of revolution. Okay, okay, so this was all about structural functionalism. Write down one line and then we will finish it. In case an organ of the society does not function properly, in case an organ of the society does not function properly, it is considered as pathology. 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 You know, when the organ of your body would not be functioning properly, okay, that in the language of a biologist is generally called as pathology. No, you are recommended to a pathologist, लाल पैथ लैब्स, वहां जाते हो, आप चेकअप कराते हो अपना, पैथ लिखा होता है, लाल पैथ लैब्स, पैथ लिखा होता है, ये यानी they are trying to look into the causes of the malfunction of your body, path anomy. Okay, similarly in society also we come across pathologies when organs stop failing or malfunction. Okay, and this malfunctioning of the organs can be cured by reforms. Write down. And these malfunctioning of the organs of society can be cured by social reforms. Social reforms. If your heart is not functioning properly, heart transplantation would be the last resort. That would not be the first step. Okay, that is a revolution. Okay, हार्ट ट्रांसप्लांट ही कर दिया, लंग्स ट्रांसप्लांट कर दिए, वो रेवोल्यूशन. किसी आदमी का जब लंग ट्रांसप्लांट होता है ना, उसको कांच के महल में रखना पड़ता है जिंदगी भर के लिए, इतना सेंसिटिव हो जाता है वो आदमी. ठीक है, तो they would always speak in support of reforms, never in support of revolution, because they believe revolution creates more disorder. Okay, so I hope this was all clear to you. All the keywords are now very much clear to you. So let us quickly open the platform to the questions. Nikhilesh, आ जाओ. Questions अच्छा यहीं पे आएंगे. ठीक है आ रहे हैं, क्या आ रहे हैं. Yes, now you can ask, sir, can you explain the sociology emerged in Europe and flourished to begin with on social reformist orientation in the USA? Yes, American sociology. American sociology is another branch of sociology that will be taught to you after Max Weber. Okay, there are 3 scholars in your syllabus from American sociology. One is Talcott Parsons, then Merton, then Mead. Okay, I will tell you exactly how American sociology came into existence initially. Acha, by the way, let me tell you one very interesting phenomena from it. This question reminded me of that thing. There is only one sociologist. There is only one sociologist who has got Nobel Prize. Only one sociologist so far who has got Nobel Prize. Okay, and that was a female sociologist. a female sociologist. Her name was, or her name is, Jane Addams. Jane Addams. And she worked on poverty, slums. You know, in America, they were not so much lover of theories of society. They actually wanted to work at the ground level. But I will explain all these things later on. Okay, you don't have to worry about this question. Please explain philosophy of history again. Kanishk, philosophy of history simply means the way history moves. It moves in a simple to complex manner. In the sense, for example, there was a point of time when in France there was only one religion. Simple. One religion, one form of law, one form of family. Okay, everything was simple. Today, in France, just like India, it is equally diverse. It does not consist of one religion population. It consists of multiple population having different kind of religions and religious beliefs. And when you have multiple kind of people coming from different walks of life or different religions, can you ever afford to be religious as a state? You would have to be secular. You would have to maintain equal distance or equal affiliation for all the religions. Only then your state would survive. Okay, so simple to complex means from one to many. Just think like this. Okay. Next question. Pranshu, sir, the answer writing practice was really helpful, and it would be really helpful if we do this every week or after every topic. Yes, Pranshu, definitely. We will be doing it every week. Every week. Okay, not after every topic, because then we also have to finish the syllabus. Okay, but yes, there will be a point of time when you will be doing this every day. Okay, and you guys should be prepared. You guys should be prepared always before coming to class. Any day I can take a test, just like the way I did today. Any day I can take a test. Okay. Taniksha, can you differentiate between social thought and sociology? Taniksha, no, social thought is, something that comes to all of us. And social thought in itself is a very general word. It's not a concept. Social thought. When when you think about everyone, okay, I don't know if it's a concept or not. Generally, we talk about social theories or sociological theories. Social thought is very general word. Okay, sociology is a branch. It is a discipline. You cannot ask a question to an economist, what is the difference between economic thought and economics? Can you ask this question to an economist? What is the difference between economic thought and economics? Okay. From Imran Pasha. Sir, why did Auguste Comte call disorder as intellectual disorder? Intellectual disorder. Intellectual disorder. The problem is not with any other thing. The problem is with the way we think. If today, after so many years of enlightenment, if still we have faith in religion, caste, or all the things that are legitimized in the name of religion, if we have faith in all those things till date, don't you think that intellectual change is what is required? And in those times, when Auguste Comte was writing in the context of French Revolution, he believed it is the intellectual disorder. Even in the scientific age, people are still having religious beliefs, metaphysical beliefs. Unless scientific thought prevails all over and dominates over these two primitive thoughts like metaphysical or religious, there will be no order in society. Unless all of us believe in constitution, do you think constitutional morality will ever prevail? No. All of us would have to abide by constitution. Only then constitutional morality or the discipline or the laws would be functioning properly. But if some people do not abide by constitution, or they abide by some other law book or dharma book, this is nothing but intellectual disorder. In the scientific age, we are still ruled by such thoughts. Why did Auguste Comte, ये तो हो गया तुषार दोभाल. Sir, Comte, being a structural functionalist, talked about scientific stage based on purely science. So, is he leading towards further turmoil by undermining other organs such as religion? Sir, Comte, let me read the question again, Tushar. Sir, Comte, being a structural functionalist, talked about scientific stage based on purely science. So is he leading towards further turmoil by undermining other organs such as religion? Tushar, when did Auguste Comte undermine religion? He never undermined religion. What did he say? Remember one thing. When he is saying that at one point of time we were explaining everything in a religious fashion, and gradually intellectual change happens, and now we are being governed by scientific thought. That means he is only talking about evolution. He is not saying that religious thought is Bevkufi. One should not be thinking religiously or in a religious. He is just simply explaining like a scientist that the problem of disorder is that the religious explanation is still there. That does not mean he is criticizing religion. He is only studying it scientifically. That intellectual change should have happened by now. Scientific thought should have prevailed. Religious thought is still there. That means intellectual order is not there. It is a collision. So he is not attributing any label to religion that it is bad, something like that. In fact, he was a conservative. He did not like Enlightenment people questioning God. Remember this. तुषार क्लियर हो गया ना? बता देना मेरे को नीचे. याशी सेमवाल. Why Comte and other scholars were after making sociology a scientific subject? Yes, Yashi, people at that point of time wanted to make sociology a scientific subject because in those times, science was the main process of thought. Means observation, experimentation, whether you talk about Galileo Galilei, Kepler, Copernicus, or the invention of man who can think for himself, having individual capacity to reason. Okay, what does it show? That man is someone who can have doubt, does not need to rely on heavenly dictates. Okay, so that is why sociology was also no exception to that rule. And the people who formulated sociology believed that just like we have laws explaining the natural world, laws of physics like law of gravitation, similarly society also is run by laws. We the sociologists will uncover those laws, and that is why sociology is also a science, because that was for the first time that society was being studied in a scientific fashion. Clear Yashi? Bata dena bas. Shubhangi Donode. How can we connect current affairs with theory? Abhi nahi. Shubhangi, we will gradually connect current affairs also with theory. Okay. For the time being, I believe that unless we understand few more things, which I believe would be understood only after having gone through, only after we have read those scholars in Unit 4. Unless we have covered that, We would not be talking about current affair. Okay. First, how to play the chords is important than directly playing the song on the guitar. First, the basics. Sir, what is sociological imagination? Okay, Rajshri Dehuri. Sociological imagination is something that I actually wanted to take today only, but somehow I felt that there are few issues that should be clear, okay, before we proceed further. So tomorrow we'll be beginning with sociological imagination also. Okay, okay, Rajshri. And that will help us actually in understanding many other things like comparison between sociology and other disciplines and sociology versus common sense. Pratibha Chandan. Sir, in the statement by Ashish, he said India has become secular, but Indians are still religious. Sir, but you taught secularism does not mean removal of religion, and it's just removing religion from politics. So people has to be nahi, Pratibha. It's the other. It's not that thing. It's not so easy. See, secularism. First of all, we have to understand that for a beginner like us, okay, we should only remember that secularism in France had completely different meaning. Okay, in India we have completely different meaning. We talk about Indian secularism versus French secularism. Even in GS we read like this. In France there is complete separation between church and state. In India there cannot be complete separation. Rather, we are equidistant because we do not have one, we have multiple religions. We have multiple religions. And that is why the meaning of secularism changes with the context of society. And secularism, for that matter, is a Western philosophy. Okay, so that question would be very difficult for me to answer right now because then it may make the situation more complicated. I would have to investigate secularism's के types and then the meaning of religion. Religion का meaning भी बड़े अलग अलग होते हैं. Egan Patrao. Sir, can you draw a framework of how emergent sociology can be answered along with precursors to sociology? Egan, the framework has already been given to you in the notes. Check. The third last page or the second last page, you will see a map, okay, where precursors to sociology and the intellectual currents all are aiming towards a discipline called as sociology. Prince Dahiya. How did emergence of industrial society change the family life in Western Europe? How to write this as a development of nuclear family? Prince Dahiya, it is too soon to explain development of nuclear family because nuclear family as a concept is a part of our unit, family and kinship. There I will explain you how the nuclear family got developed. Okay. And do we really have the concept of nuclear family in India? This concept, nuclear family, as a concept, is actually the gift of Western sociology to all of us. So, you know, there is no concept of nuclear family in India. We do not have any such thing. According to A.M. Shah, there is one scholar. A.M. Shah. He is a sociologist from Delhi School of Economics, very popular sociologist, one of the founder of Delhi School of Economics in Delhi University along with Andre Bete. This guy expired last year only and he is there in your syllabus and he says the concept of nuclear family is very Western, does not exist in India. Why? You know what happens in America or Europe? Nuclear literally implies nuclear. In the sense there is no connection with the extended members or the fifth member or the third member whatsoever. But here in India, even if you stay away from your parents, every day you will get a call from your parents. हाँ बेटा पढ़ाई कैसे चल रही है, सही हो रही है, एग्जाम अच्छा चल रहा है, कोई दिक्कत तो नहीं आ रही, ठीक है, अच्छा मिश्रा जी हैं हाँ तुम्हारे घर के पास वहीं रहते हैं, कोई दिक्कत है उनको बोल देना हमारे वहीं के हैं वो, ठीक है. इस तरह की बातें चलती हैं, फैमिली वहीं बन जाती है. हमें लगता है अरे हम इतना दूर आए हैं, इधर भी यही इनके परिवार वाले रिश्ते वाले सारे. न्यूक्लियर फैमिली कभी फील ही नहीं होगी आपको इंडिया में, इतने लोग हैं. प्रिंस दहिया, ये तो हो गया. इमरान पाशा, डू ऑगस्ट कॉम्ट इज अगेंस्ट द फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन और जस्ट अगेंस्ट डिसऑर्डर क्रिएटेड बाय फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन? Of course, Imran, Auguste Comte is against the whole concept of French Revolution because it has created disorder. Nutan Chaurasia, how the conclusion should be written in the question we have discussed today. What is meta-narrative? Okay. Conclusion is something that you would eventually get to know. Okay. Since we are yet to learn many things, and to have a better conclusion, we should have proper base. Okay. So it's too soon for me to tell you this is the process of learning to write conclusion. Okay. This is something that you would eventually learn all by yourself. I don't want to spoon feed you the art of writing conclusion. Okay. For the timing at least. And what is meta narrative? Okay. Again, one more word that you might have come across in your notes. Nutan is asking, what is meta narrative? Meta narrative in a very simple language simply means, to those people who can understand Hindi, I will tell to them, badi badi baatein. This is meta narrative. And to those people who do not understand Hindi, I would say grand totalizing beliefs. Now the question is, what do we mean by grand totalizing beliefs? Because badi badi baatein to samajh aa gaya. But ye badi badi baatein bhi kaun si hain? Suppose if I say anything like this, that Marxism as a philosophy will help the world to move towards egalitarianism. Now, this seems very badi baat or a grand totalizing ideology like Marxism operating to make the world equitable. But Marxism as a narrative has failed today. People do not speak on these lines. People are not concerned about Karl Marx or Marxist philosophy these days. Even the leftist, the so-called Communist Party of India, you would not find them talking about Karl Marx. They would be talking about all the issues. And you would always find them supporting some of the things which, according to their ideology of Communist Party of India, they should not have supported. But you would find them supporting those bills or acts also sometimes, which are against their ideologies. And this shows that ideology as a concept has failed. People do not really follow ideology. People only follow what is suited to their best advantage at that point of time. There is no concept like ideology. It is all meta narrative only now. Only meta narratives. Badi badi baatein hi reh chuki hain. Only these have become only grand ideological beliefs. The ground reality has become very different from what is the ideological meta narrative. समझ गए? ओके, तो गुड बाय, कल मिलते हैं.